On my first Saturday in the new place, a county sergeant knocked on my door asking about a drainage violation, while my next-door neighbor on the HOA side was out there in a pencil skirt, waving her arms like runway lights, swearing I'd endangered the community over a scrap of plywood. By my driveway 6 weeks later, under buzzing rec room lights, her ex stood up in a packed meeting and said the sheet she'd been flashing like a badge was never authority at all. Just notes, he typed to impress her. You could feel the air shift when he said it, and I swear I heard the gavel before it hit the table. I bought 218 Cedar Lane for quiet after 3 years of living where a committee measured my grass and fined me for parking 1 inch crooked. I wanted a Saturday. I could mow in peace, the listing said. HOA, and I read those 2 words like a prayer. The funny part is the border between my lot and Birch Hollow. Estates HOA is 1 telephone pole, wide stand there, and you could plant 1 foot in their rules and 1 foot in county freedom. I figured neighbors would be neighbors, then I met Marla. It was 7 a.m. Movers were ricocheting my couch through the doorway I was in yesterday's jeans, chasing bad coffee, and there she was pacing my property line with a clipboard and a tape measure, crouching every 6 feet to snap a photo like she'd found a crime scene. The thing that hooked her attention was a 2x4 piece of plywood. I'd set over a shallow notch, the previous owner said, was a 1982 utility easement not permanent, just a little bridge to save my bumper until I could build something proper. You're obstructing community drainage. Section 4.2, she announced, voice tight and cheerful, like a flight attendant about to start duct tape arts and crafts. I said, I'm on the county side. Teen Cedar is not in Birch Hollow. She smiled without her eyes and said community standards apply to adjacent properties, her favorite line. Then she marched off like she had a schedule to keep. That evening, a cream envelope with block letters was slid under my door. HOA letterhead notice of aesthetic violation, unauthorized structural modification, affecting community drainage. Immediate corrective measures required. The number rolled to voicemail. The email bounced. The website looked like a museum exhibit. I told myself it was a clerical hiccup and went to bed. Next morning, thunder knuckles on the door. Sergeant Alvarez on my porch radio crackling had pushed back like he'd seen this episode before. Behind him stood Marla with the clipboard and new lipstick. Same energy, the sergeant checked the parcel map on his tablet, glanced at my little board, and said, utility easements are county jurisdiction. HOA rules don't apply here. If you go permanent, check with Public Works, otherwise you're fine. He tipped his brim, walked off, and for a second I thought that was the end. Then I bent to move the board and saw 1982 scratched into the concrete lip, under mud and leaves, faint municipal marking like a signature from the past. I smiled. I shouldn't have. 3 days later, a city email dropped with a countdown bar across the top 72 hours to correct non-standard drainage modifications or face daily fines. A link to approved contractors who charge like the emergency room. Then my insurance called to say my address had been flagged by their risk indicators. Then the bank called to say expedited underwriting assessment because of civil dispute indicators. Not about payments, they said about collateral. And that is when the floor tilted under me. You know what I mean. I laid down an outdoor runner over the muddy spot, so I'd stop tracking muck inside 2 landscape stakes the next morning. An email arrived with photos taken at the exact angle and time I'd installed it. Improper obstruction of utility access. $500 fine mandatory. $350 inspection. 10 business days. Which is funny in a way that makes your teeth hurt, because I realized someone was watching, waiting for me to sneeze wrong. Saturday, she rolled out a tripod on the public sidewalk, reflective vest, laser pointer, live stream, voice lecturing about boundaries between association infrastructure and non-compliant adjacent zones. She dotted my curb with yellow paint, like she was diagramming a football play, and 2 teenagers walked by, eating ice cream. Like this was just Saturday programming. That's when Ruth Carter knocked 72 retired history teacher with a folder full of tabs and a look that said she's graded tougher papers. She'd been on HOA boards in 3 states. She said there's oversight and there's performance. Theater, and we were knee-deep in the second one. She laid out board minutes where Marla had tried 6 times to coordinate adjacent areas and lost every vote. 2 non-HOA owners had caved in the past year. One spent $5 grand on drainage. Nobody needed one. Tore out a swing set because someone called it a visual nuisance. They didn't know how to fight it, so they paid or moved. I told her I didn't want to be number 3. She said it, then don't be. Sunday at 2, we did a site walk. Sidewalk only neighbors. As witnesses' calm voices Marla showed with a laminated technical infrastructure memo, dated 1984, claiming my edge was an infrastructure buffer zone, requiring HOA approval. I asked for the original. She said it was archived. The laminate was certified. Ruth put the county planning hotline on speaker. The automated answer said, "As-built contractor notes do not alter legal jurisdiction. Easement language in deeds. Controls utility. Easements remain with the county at teacher." Silence fell. Marla muttered, "Technical nitpicking. Destroys neighborhoods." I snapped photos of the laminate saw NG technician in the corner, as built stamped at the top that night. A text buzzed my phone. "Stop digging or you'll regret it." And I did not sleep much. Monday. I made my worst move out of sheer exhaustion. I called Marla and asked to meet Cafe Table Cinnamon Air. She opened her leather portfolio like a magician. Opening a hat, I said, "I'm drowning. I will do whatever you say. If this ends," and she smiled. Showed me a compliance timeline that read like probation conditions that night. She posted a video with my house in the background and my voice saying, "I will do whatever you say." Then her sermon on cooperation. It looked suspiciously polished. I downloaded it, checked metadata. Because old habits die slow. It had been scheduled the night before our lunch. She didn't catch me. She set me. Yeah, that happened. Something in me steadied. I deleted my socials, so there was nothing else to cut up. Then I opened a spreadsheet and started logging everything: dates, fines, calls, witnesses, photos. A pattern appeared like ink in water. HOA notice that didn't apply. Sheriff visit. That cleared me. Municipal complaint. Insurance. Flag bank review. Sidewalk show. New citation keyed to my runner. I pulled my closing packet and read the title policy like, Scripture Schedule B. Said the easement was county. Controlled owners maintain access, but can't be forced by private associations. Unless the deed says so. Cross easement changes need. Every party's consent, plus municipal engineering sign-off. None of that gave Birch Hollow power over non-members. While I was connecting dots, the doorbell rang, and Tyrell James from around the corner stepped in with printouts. 22 years as an electrician, and a hobby of chasing bad wiring. He'd pulled public usage dashboards and found spikes at a Birch Hollow address that looked nothing like a normal house. He showed me photos from a service call. Old utility covers, stamped 1982 with fresh paint marks, saying LP authorized to and NG Tech on a metal lip. Ruth texted back that LP was Liam Porter, the treasurer who'd warned against overreach in a meeting. So why were his initials on retrofits? We spread the minutes and photos across Ruth's dining table and formed a plan. The emergency board meeting was standing room only, plastic chairs in rows, fluorescent hum like a nervous hive. I walked the room through the boundary. Cedar is county side. HOA rules. Stop at the stone monument. Easements are county jurisdiction and deeds of control, not laminates. As-built notes are references, not law cross-easement work. Needs signatures and engineering, off. Slide by slide, the laminated memo showed as built at the header and Technician in the corner board minutes showed 6 failed attempts to expand control photos. Showed 1982 hardware with 2022 authorizations graphs. Showed unexplained usage spikes that lined up with the so-called drainage improvements. Halfway through, a man stood in back with the weight of someone about to open a door. He closed on himself. Nate Greer, he said, Marla's ex-licensed tech. I drafted a notes sheet to help her understand clearances. It was never authority. After we split, I realized my initials were being used to sell power. She didn't have, he swallowed. There was also an after-hours tie in that rerouted runoff to the city main, without a permit that explains the spikes. I'm sorry, I can't defend it. Marla shot up, chair skittering. This is a coordinated attack by people who hate standards. If the board won't back legitimate authority, I'll dissolve Birch Hollow and take control of infrastructure. Myself, Liam leaned into his mic and said, You don't have the power to dissolve anything, and you never had authority over non-member property. We've told you that for a year. Then Hans Rose, the secretary, counted removal of the president 41 in favor. 3 opposed the gavel. Hit Marla swept her arm across the table. Papers flew like startled birds. She stormed out, promising lawsuits and phone calls to state offices. Nobody followed the door shut, and the room exhaled. That could be the neat ending. But life leaves threads. 2 days later, a manila envelope showed up with a photocopied permit request stamped. Received the same week. Those spikes began. The signature at the bottom looked like LP in shaky blue ink. If Liam warned against overreach, why did he sign? Or did someone sign for him? I handed it to Ruth, who said, We push this through proper channels. We do not make it a show. She was right. The fines got reviewed. The inspector walked the ditch and told me to swap the board for a small trench bridge. When I could, the insurance backed off, the bank relaxed. The yellow paint flaked away. Neighbors started waving from their porches like we all remembered. We live here together, but sometimes I still hear the hum of a drone that isn't there, and I tighten. Anyway, power leaves bruises. Even when it loses, you know what I mean. So tell me what you see in this. Should I have paid and moved on? Or was fighting the only way to make the line hold do? HOAs protect neighborhoods, or just hand the loudest person a louder megaphone. Drop your city and your local time. Tell me if you've seen someone use official-sounding language to scare people who didn't know the rules, and if you believe boundaries should be set by law and consent, not live streams and clipboards. Hit subscribe and share this with the next neighbor who needs backup.